Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the digestion and metabolism of various lipoproteins, and in the end we're going to briefly discuss some of the studies done on the cholesterol in eggs and how it has changed for the recommendations over the years. After food is ingested, it will go through the stomach into the small intestine. We're going to zoom in on the exterior wall of the small intestine. We're going to start out with the lipid droplets. So lipid droplets will be digested and emulsified into micelles, and then from that it will enter into the wall of the small intestine as monoglycerols and fatty acid. That, with phospholipids, cholesterol, and apoproteins, will become chylomicrons in the lymphatic system, and then from there all excess will go to the blood, and then it will circulate to the liver, and then it will hook on to the LDL receptors. Glucose is going to go from the small intestine cells into the blood, and then from the blood it will circulate into the liver. In the liver, it will be converted into pyruvate, and as it does that, it enters into the mitochondria of hepatic cells. And inside the mitochondria, it will convert into acetyl-CoA, and there's many other metabolic processes that occur here. But in the end, it will exit the mitochondria, and it will exit as cholesterol. Another fate can be acetyl-CoA can become malonyl-CoA, which can be converted into fatty acids, while glucose can also become glycerol. So with glycerol and then 3 of these fatty acids, they will combine and make triglyceride. So that, combined with the cholesterol and apoproteins, which are in the liver, those 3 will combine and they will make lipoproteins. So lipoproteins are pretty much lipids and have part lipid and have part protein in them. There's many kinds, but in the liver it only can produce 2 kinds. It can produce empty HDL, which is high density lipids, and very low density lipids, or VLDL. So we're going to start with the empty HDL. So HDL is considered to be a good type of lipoprotein because it collects all extra or excess cholesterol throughout the body, and then it hooks onto it, and then it takes it through the blood and then all the way back into the liver, where it can be either excreted as bile, or it can be recycled and used as lipoproteins again. So we're going to go to the second one. So the second one is VLDL, or very low density lipoproteins. So very low density lipoproteins are going to enter into the blood, and it's going to use lipase to convert into intermediate density lipoproteins. And from there, it's going to circulate, and through circulation it converts into LDL, or low density. So LDL has a higher ratio of lipids than proteins, and the lipids are primarily cholesterol. So the LDL will take cholesterol and give it to several different body tissues. Even though cholesterol typically has a pretty negative connotation with it, it is very, very, very important for the body and useful. So cholesterol is used for hormone production, and it also maintains the cell membrane's integrity. So our body does need it, as much as people like to think that cholesterol is very evil. It's not. It's still needed in your body. Extra cholesterol, or LDL, is going to be taken back in the blood, and then it's going to go back into the liver. It's going to hook on to the low density lipoprotein receptors, and then from there it has the same fate as the HDL. It will either be excreted via bile, or it will recycle into lipoproteins. So that was an overview of the digestion and metabolism of lipoproteins and cholesterol. So we're going to talk a little bit about a recent, I don't want to say misconception, but a couple recent studies that have been done about the cholesterol in eggs. So it's very well known that the yolk of an egg is very high in cholesterol and various other types of fats. So for a quick breakdown of what is contained, the types of fats that are in the yolk, it is 44% monounsaturated fatty acids, 11% polyunsaturated fatty acids, and the remaining being saturated fatty acids, with 391 milligrams of cholesterol on average per egg. So the origin of the whole thing of eggs being bad for you or cholesterol being bad for you comes from the early 20th century. There was an experiment done on animals in regards to butter, which is high in saturated fat, and typically when a food is high in saturated fat, it's typically parallel with the amount of cholesterol in it. So when they did the study, they saw that there was a very high increase of coronary heart disease in these animals that were fed a high amount of butter, which is saturated fat. This led to a somewhat simplistic conclusion that because of the high saturated fat, there will be a high amount of cholesterol. Therefore, the high amount of cholesterol will be the reason for the coronary heart disease risk. Later on, there have been many studies. I'm not going to go through all of them, but many of them concluded that it's not necessarily the dietary cholesterol, but rather the fatty acids which cause the increase of risk. Also, they concluded that yes, dietary cholesterol does increase serum cholesterol, which is both high density and low density, but because it also increases the high density lipoproteins, then that also will aid in reducing the risk of coronary heart disease, because it takes excess cholesterol from body tissue and it circulates it back into the liver, like we spoke about. There were other studies done for weight loss, and the one that there's two we'll talk about real quick. So one of them increased to 2 eggs per day. This study showed that there was no increase in total plasma or LDL cholesterol when accompanied with moderate weight loss. So it was put into a diet, not the main source of the diet, but that with moderate weight loss showed very good results. And then when it was put with a carbohydrate restricted diet, they consumed 3 eggs per day, and it found that there was no change in LDL levels, so it did not increase at all, but there was a significant increase in HDL levels compared to those who are on the same diet but without the eggs. So that's very good because, as we spoke about twice already, HDL is good because it brings cholesterol back into the liver. Globally, there have been numerous committees and guidelines that have changed over the years, from saying that eggs should be watched closely to eggs being a healthy part of the diet. Many of them argue that the cholesterol specifically in eggs has not been studied. Therefore, when it was studied, it found that it was too insignificant of an amount to actually cause a risk in coronary heart disease. So overall, the takeaway message from all these studies and the changes in the USDA and the AHA and all of this is, it's okay. Cholesterol is very important for the body. It's the regulation of hormones, and it helps keep the integrity of the cell membrane. But at the same time, nothing in excess is good for you. So eating 8 eggs a day probably isn't the best idea, but eating it sometimes during the week can be very beneficial because it does increase HDL and other beneficial things in your body. Thank you guys for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the video.